Hello there, my name is Sylvia and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you're new here, I cover true crime stories each week, solved and unsolved. So if you're interested in true crime, I highly suggest that you click that subscribe button to support me and my channel and so you never miss another Sylvia Solves It video. I am back with another unsolved case that I was just completely blown away by. I would love to hear your thoughts on this case, and that is the disappearance of Danielle Imbo and Richard Petrone. Today's case is the unsolved disappearance of Danielle Imbo and Richard Petrone. Without further ado, let's get into the case. Danielle Imbo was born Danielle Audebray, and she was 34 at the time she went missing, and Richard Petrone was 35. Their families were Italian, and they were both native to the Northeast, so the couple actually knew each other as they were growing up, and they even dated as teenagers before eventually parting ways. It's in this time apart that they started dating other people. Richard fathering a daughter named Angela, who was 14 at the time of his disappearance, and Danielle marrying and having a baby boy with a man named Joe Imbo. Danielle and Joe's relationship quickly went south after the birth of their baby boy, who they named Joe Jr. after his father. Joe wanted Danielle to be in the traditional woman's role, so he didn't want her to have a job. He wanted her to quit her singing hobby because she was the lead singer in a local band, and he also wanted her to just stay at home all the time and just take care of their baby. And Danielle was just kind of offended by all of this, but she was doing this for a while. She was a stay-at-home mom, taking on the traditional role of caring for the child that they had together. However, the breaking point of all of this was when Danielle and her baby were both sick and Joe abandoned both of them to go to the Super Bowl. Which, if you love sports, maybe you think it's worth it, but Danielle was not having this and it really pissed her off. And what pissed her off even more was when Joe came back from the Super Bowl and told her that he wanted a divorce because he had met somebody. This relationship with this mystery woman did not last long, and a few weeks later, Joe reached out to Danielle to reconcile, but she was already just over the relationship and she got an apartment in New Jersey. A few weeks after he met this mystery woman, their relationship did not pan out, and Joe reached back out to Danielle to apologize and say that he wanted her back. But Danielle was over this relationship, and she was already in the process of getting a condo out in New Jersey. Now, filing for divorce is often drawn out. It's not as clean cut as, say, breaking up with somebody. So while they were going through the property division and custody battle, Danielle ignited her old flame with Richard Petrone. Their families were really excited about this because they had all been close for years. So it just made sense for Danielle to get with the Petrone family's only son, Richard. And Joe was not happy about their reunion. He had actually called Richard at the bakery where he worked several times to yell at him and tell him to stop sleeping with his wife. Well, Joe, maybe you should have thought about that before you met somebody at the Super Bowl. The whole love triangle thing put a lot of stress on Danielle, and she decided to stay single for a while because she wanted to focus on herself and her son, and she felt like the dating thing and the hostility from Joe towards Richard was just stressing her out way too much. She couldn't deal. So it was actually her 2005 New Year's resolution to, try to focus on herself. And that's when she cut off the relationship with Richard. However, they did stay friends. This wasn't a sour relationship. Richard was a really sweet guy and he completely understood. Danielle got a job working from home at a mortgage company, and she was also getting back into her hobby as being the lead singer of rock bands. Her favorite artist to cover was Janis Joplin, and that is because she had that same sexy ragged voice that Janice had. And her ragged voice was partially because Danielle was a big smoker. At the time of her disappearance, she had actually chain smoked her way to less than 100 pounds. So she had cigarettes multiple times a day. That was her own prerogative. It was also 2005, and I feel like smoking was way more common back then. As if it's that long ago. But even though she was taking a break from dating, Danielle and Richard remained close friends, and that's why when Richard hit her up last minute to go out to a bar, Danielle agreed. Her baby was staying with Joe, so she had no obligations for the night, so she was like, sure, why not? I'd love to go out and watch some live music, have a few cocktails, just have like a nice little night out, free of any responsibility. On the night of Saturday, February 19th, 2005, Richard picked Danielle up from her condo in New Jersey in his large black truck. They went to meet up with their friends at a bar called Abilene's to watch some live music. These friends were named Anthony Valentino and Michelle McLaughlin. And when they showed up to the bar, they say that Richard walked in bragging about his close parking space. He was like, yeah, like I got some rock star parking. It's like right out front. And this was something to brag about because it was 28 degrees that night. I experienced my first Northeast winter and I am in the middle of my second. And these winters up here are brutal. It is so cold and it is like a wet, bone-chilling cold. So yes, a close parking space is definitely something to brag about. By all accounts, Richard and Danielle were a very happy couple that night. They were dancing, they were laughing, and they were also kissing. The couple that they were with said that they did not seem drunk, and that's why they weren't worried at all after the band finished their final set, and Richard told them that he was going to drop Danielle off at her condo. They left the bar around 11:45 p.m. and drove off into the night. Nobody saw them walk to their car, and that is important later. The first sign that something was amiss was when Danielle missed her hair appointment that morning at 11 a.m. Her brother John had also stopped by that morning to help fix a broken curtain rod, and he noticed that the house did not seem like she had been there the night before. The ashtray was completely clean, which was uncharacteristic of chain smoker Danielle. However, panic didn't truly set in until 5 p.m. when her husband Joe arrived at her condo to find that she was not there to receive their infant son. So this was not like Danielle at all. She was a very devoted mother, and she also never missed appointments. So for her to drop the ball like this and to just not be in contact with anybody the entire day, people were immediately like asking questions. And the Imbo family called the Petrone family, hoping that like maybe Danielle was sleeping off a hangover. Maybe this was like their sign that she and Richard were back together because maybe she was sleeping over at his place. However, they found that the Petrone family was just as nervous as they were. Richard had not been home to his 14-year-old daughter, and he was also a mama's boy who called his mom multiple times a day. So the fact that nobody had gotten phone calls from him the entire day was really weird. And both families tried calling their respective missing person, and the calls were not going through. It seemed like both of their phones had been turned off. Now, Joe Imbo actually had connections to the police department, so their disappearance was taken seriously from the get-go. The police canvassed a 100-mile radius around the Philadelphia bar, and they checked all security cameras from local businesses, they checked their phone records, and there was nothing of this couple. So it really seemed like this couple had just vanished into thin air. There was no sign of either of them, and there was also no sign of the big black 2001 Dodge Dakota pickup truck that they were last seen in. This was a noticeable truck, guys. So the fact that like Nobody noticed them on the street. Nobody noticed them on security footage. There was no activity in their bank accounts. This was all extremely odd. This was a highly publicized case back in 2005, and there were missing persons flyers posted up all over Philly, and hundreds of tips came pouring in. Like I said, there was no activity on their phones. They seemed to have been turned off, and there was also no activity on their credit cards. So this was very strange. It's not like they had run away together. Neither of them were the kind of person to like leave their kids behind like that. Because like, yes, like they did like each other, and Danielle was under a lot of stress, but they did not believe that she was the kind of person to just abandon her life. Something of note is that the route from Philadelphia to where Danielle lived in New Jersey had 4 bridges, and they would have had to cross one of these in order to get there. And this is the Northeast, so all of the highways and interstates have tolls that you have to pass through, and they take a photo of your license plate and then they send you the bill in the mail. And there was no evidence that his Dakota pickup truck had passed through any of these tolls. So this leads the police to their first theory in the case, and that is the theory that Richard accidentally drove his car into one of these bodies of water. A lot of people think that while they were driving and they were passing over a body of water, that the car went off the road and into the water. Richard was behind the wheel and he had some drinks that night, but his friends say that he didn't seem drunk. However, it's possible that like the alcohol hit him while he was driving, or, it was also late at night. So maybe he was just tired, or maybe something in the car distracted him and he like was driving and like looked over, and then just in a matter of seconds, the truck went off the road and into the water. So they did scour the Delaware River and the other bodies of water that surround Philadelphia, and they didn't find any trace of the Dodge Dakota pickup truck. The Delaware River is freezing cold, and it's also extremely dark and deep, so his car could still be sitting down there. This happens quite often. I don't know if you guys saw that news story where like a mother and her daughter had been missing for years before they found their car submerged in a body of water. I think that is extremely possible, especially since both of their phones are off and there's been absolutely no activity on their credit card. I just don't get how 2 people and their big truck could go missing and there's literally been no sightings of them. There's the other theory that Richard like maybe ran away, like whether he ran away with Danielle or like he hurt Danielle and ran away, but like that just does not seem like reliable to me at all. It seems completely inaccurate based on like what we know about Richard. I don't think that he would ever hurt Danielle. He seemed like a very like sensitive guy. And then also like what are the odds that like he could kill her, hide the body, and then be completely missing without a trace himself? And also, I'm going to bring up the subject of organized crime. This could be a stolen car ring, the mob, a murder for hire plot. It could be any or all of these things because there's really no evidence in this case. Stolen car rings are very common in Philadelphia, and the year before this incident, 13,000 cars were stolen. So basically, a stolen car ring is like when somebody steals your car and then they take it to a chop shop that's in on the job, and they take the car apart and then sell it for parts. And these are very common in Philadelphia, and there are chop shops all over the city. So maybe somebody had broken into the truck and was hiding in the back when they went and sat down in it, and then they came up with a gun and then they forced them to drive somewhere, then killing them both. It's also possible that like somebody was just waiting nearby the car, and when they saw them getting into it, they then ambushed them. Because Richard drove like a pretty nice truck. I mean, I don't know anything about cars, but the 2001 black Dodge Dakota that he drove was very eye-catching based on the accounts of people who knew him. But I don't get like how you could jump from theft all the way up to murder, you know? Like that just seems to me to be like a really big jump to go from like stealing a car to a double homicide. Following up on the murder for hire theory, the FBI formally announced in 2008 that they were investigating the disappearance of Danielle Imbo and Richard Petrone as a murder for hire plot. Nothing came of this, but I think that it's very possible that it could be something like this, especially since the FBI themselves say that they're investigating it as a murder for hire plot. If this was a mob hit, the car may be the crime scene. When the mafia kills people, they often keep them in the car and send it to a salvage yard where all the evidence is crushed. They then keep it there or take the cube of what was once a vehicle to its final hiding spot. Here is a video of one of the huge industrial balers that they use at these salvage yards. They could also dismember the bodies and dump them out in the woods, on private property, or in a swamp or river that outputs into the ocean. This is the mafia, you guys. They are professionals in hiding bodies and getting away with murder. But if this is murder for hire, who is doing the hiring? You know, like they're not just out here like assassinating people for no reason. Richard's family really can't think of like any reason why he would be involved in something like this. Richard didn't do drugs, he didn't gamble. They really can't think of anyone who would want to hurt Richard. However, the Petrone family is very suspicious of Danielle's husband. Remember, he had called Richard leaving those threatening messages, and he also seemed very controlling over Danielle. Now, Joe Imbo had a solid alibi. He was at a friend's kid's birthday party that night that multiple police officers were at to corroborate his story. A little convenient, right? Well, he was investigated as a potential suspect, and the police brought him into the station. Of course, he said he had no idea where Danielle or Richard could be, but his polygraph came back as inconclusive. Polygraphs are notoriously unreliable, so you can't really put too much stock in the fact that his polygraph was inconclusive. Now, Joe does have a little bit of motive. He now has custody of the son that he and Danielle had together. So it makes sense that he would maybe want Danielle out of the way so that he could raise the son the way he wants to. Also, he seemed to be jealous of the fact that Danielle was seeing Richard, even though he himself was originally going to leave her for another woman. But yeah, like that theory doesn't exactly make sense either. So I'm not sure. I mean, it's just so hard when you have no evidence in a case like this. Now, sadly, in present day, the Petrone family and the Tobre family have parted ways. They both just like ended up pointing the finger at each other, and it really drove a wedge between the families that were once so close. And it's really sad because, I mean, they're put in this situation together because both of them have a loved one that went missing. Just because there's no leads in this whatsoever, they started to fight, and the Petrone family actually wrote a formal letter to the Tobre family telling them to not speak of Richard ever again. What is already a tragic case has now driven a wedge between the families that were so close. This case has been called the most intriguing missing persons case in recent Philadelphia history, and the FBI says that they know for a fact that there are people out there who know what happened to Danielle and Richard. So I guess that voids my theory that they accidentally went off the bridge. Here is a missing persons flyer with all the information you need to know about the appearances of Danielle and Richard at the time they went missing, and any contact information that you guys might need if you know what happened to this couple. I just think that like it's so crazy that like there's no security footage, there's no sightings of them. Like it's not like they went missing in that spot where they had parked. parked, you know? But yeah, I mean, until there's more evidence, I guess this disappearance will remain unsolved. If you liked this video, then please give it a big thumbs up for me and go ahead and leave a comment about what you think happened to the couple. Do you think that they ran away? Do you think it was a murder for hire thing? Or do you think this was an accident where they just drove off of the roadway and into a body of water? If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button down below because I post videos like this every week and I really appreciate you watching my video, and I appreciate you even more if you subscribe to my channel. So that's all the information I have for you guys, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day and stay safe.